Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, season 14, The Chatzovers. On this season of Chats, we're covering the 2014 HBO drama, The Leftovers. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by my weirdly ripped grandpa, who freed me from the sticky refrigerator with a bathed light in front of him. It's Magellan.
Oh, what the fuck?
A lot of the casting of this show is really incredible, but every once in a while I'm like, Scott Glenn, like martial arts master and like almost was a writer, Scott Glenn. He's our like mental health dad character. What's going on? Why did we choose that?
The dude is freaking brolic.
He's really brolic. I think I read somewhere in the trivia, maybe I'll pull this up later, but like he has tattoos that we learn in this episode. And that was an invention of Scott Glenn, who was like, I want this guy to be a Vietnam War veteran. And he got these in the war, which is really based, if you ask me.
Interesting. That's funny.
But how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine. It's more a morning time recording, which we haven't done in quite a while. And I thought that would fill me with a kind of verve and energy. And it has not.
Oops. Well, I mean, most of the time
this is when I usually take my nap.
Yeah, right. I mean, I tried to wake up earlier, but I do love sleeping is the thing. And I also like podcasting when I'm mostly comatose. So, you know, whatever works, whatever floats your boat at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Whatever floats your feet, your tired feet.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I've slept like a baby. This weekend, at one point, I couldn't go to sleep at 1 a.m, so I got on VR chat and I argued with a 15-year-old about the new Drake album for like 20 minutes.
No, you didn't. What was their take?
It's mid. It's ass, bro. It was their take. Donda was better. And then I was like, all right, I was about to leave. And then they said Donda was better. And I was like, all right, you have to sit down. Take a seat. Let's have a conversation.
Wait, but you thought it was mid.
No, I mean, but I think there's like merit to it. He was like, it's mid, but by mid, I also mean like it's ass. It's the worst. Like he was like too harsh on it. I'm like, I could take it or leave it. To me personally, it's not great, whatever. But to call it one of the worst albums of the year and to call it like Drake's worst album, I'm like, you're fundamentally wrong. That's just.
What's Drake's worst album? CLB?
CLB,
Pregnancy
yes.
Grid?
Certified love. No, certified. Yeah, pregnancy emoji. Certified lover boy. Wait, what did you call it? Pregnancy what?
Pregnancy Grid.
Ew, gross.
It's a grid of pregnant women emojis.
I know, but the phrase pregnancy grid is just like a cursed sentence.
I know. That was the intention.
Blech. I don't want to talk about that. You know what I do want to talk about, Magellan?
You didn't like Donda? I haven't listened to it.
I didn't like Donda very much at all. No.
What did you think of Donda 2? Did you get the stem player?
I didn't listen to Donda 2. Is there a Donda 2? Really?
Look it up. It was released exclusively on the stem player.
Oh, I don't want to get the stem player. No thanks.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Exclusively on the stem player with 4 songs made available on February 2022. Yeah. I'm not. What's
the 11th studio album by rapper Kanye West? Yeah.
I'm not get. Oh, the stem player, like the physical thing that plays stems.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Kanye West's instrument thing.
Can somebody just like hold a camera up to their stem player and play all of Donda 2 on it so I can hear it and be judgmental?
I bet that exists. Yeah.
And then I'll talk at 1 a.m. with a 15-year-old in VR chat about it. It'll be really great. We're here to talk about the
Whoa, sorry. Last thing. If you go to the stem player article on Wikipedia, this is a warning I've never seen before. This article may have been created or edited in return for undisclosed payments, a violation of Wikipedia's terms of use. It may require cleanup to comply with Wikipedia's content policies, particularly neutral point of view.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kanye supported the stem player Wikipedia article so that we would write nice things about it. It's not even that biased of an article. Whatever. The Leftovers. It's a show about 2% of the world disappearing and everyone 98% of the world is like, huh? What happened? And we're about to talk about what happened in season 1, episode 7, Solace for Tired Feet, as well as episode 8, Cairo. First up, Solace for Tired Feet. This episode was written by Damon Lindelof and Jacqueline Hoyt. It was directed by Mimi Leder. It aired August 10th, 2014. Magellan, can you tell me what happened in Solace for Tired Feet?
After learning his father has escaped the psychiatric hospital, Kevin orders an APB, an all-points bulletin, to track him down. Jill attempts to break an endurance record by locking herself in a fridge where a young boy disappeared during the departure. Oh, I didn't know that. Holed up in Indiana, a disillusioned Tom makes an unsettling discovery. He and Christine are not the only holy mother and shepherd in town.
So that what I'm doing nowadays is I take the summaries I find online, official or otherwise, and I add to them. So some of that was me. Let's see if you guys can guess at home which part of that was me. Just kidding. It's me saying holy mother and shepherd because I thought that line was kind of fun.
That is good. I like that.
The fridge thing, they didn't make it super clear, but there is a lot. There's text written on the side of it that says like, this boy was in here on October 2014 when it happened, and he's never been found. So his spirit resides within the fridge.
Oh, okay. Didn't catch that.
Yeah. But quick temp check. What did you think about Solace for Tired Feet? Were your feet solaced? I grinned like I said such a smart thing. I was like, yay.
So I think my general thing on both of these episodes, and I'll sort of say it now to get it out of the way and then meet the episodes on their terms, is that The Leftovers is a really engaging, entertaining show that's well acted, well directed, that is going in a different direction than I would have wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And I kind of have to just like get on board with it. Because this episode further doubles down on like the stuff with Kevin's dad, and he's talking to him at the end about how you have to accept something and it's true and you know it. And then there's kind of a similar moment at the end of the next one. And that's just like not the stuff that I'm here for, you know?
Absolutely.
But there's also lots of stuff that I am here for, like the part at the beginning when Nora and Kevin hang out in her house for the first time, and then she's like, I don't know how to talk to you yet.
Yes.
And he's like, I don't know how to talk to you either. And they're like, okay, let's try again tomorrow. Like, that's the stuff that I am here for. Mm-hmm. So it's still giving me that, but it's also, you know, there's all this stuff with what's up with Kevin and Wayne and oh no, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like I'm invested in it because I want to know the answer, because I like, they asked a question and now I have to know.
Yeah.
I also kind of just was here for the like grief and structural disruption show. So that's my thought. But I enjoyed both these episodes, even though it's not exactly the show that I would want it to be.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem with season 1, especially. I don't recall the mystery stuff of season 2. I remember the like big picture things that happen, and I definitely don't enjoy the supernatural and like questions of Kevin's mental health here. I do think that there is, especially in Cairo, like a discussion to be had about Kevin like dissociating because he cannot process the real world anymore, and like how we usually process things like this through family, and how he doesn't have a family unit, so he's like kind of turning to internally, and he's not finding any solace for his tired feet. But like the way it's framed is very much it's like Memento. I think by the second episode we're fully in Kevin Memento territory. But to this first one, what I do like as a writing exercise, as someone who appreciates TV writing, is the way that all of the plots kind of like intersect with each other in sort of poetic ways, between Kevin's chase of his dad through Mapleton, through Jill trapped in the fridge and all the things going on with her, and then Tom's loss of faith moment. I think that the three of them form this picture of the Garvey family as like a cyclical tragedy, and how the Garvey family just can't seem to escape like doing the same things and making the same mistakes over and over again. So I think like, yeah, as a narrative, I like that aspect of it a lot, even though I think that Kevin stuff especially is like just over my head in a way that I don't feel interested in. But in terms of Kevin, do we want to just talk about him first and his blinders to the world around him?
Yeah. What's that movie called? We have to talk about Kevin.
So I think that's what it is. Oh God, what is it?
Yeah, it's called We Have to Talk. We need to talk about Kevin.
We need to talk about Kevin. Perfect. Thank you. I haven't seen the movie.
Tilda Swinton, Ezra Miller.
I really
John
thought
C.
for a
Reilly.
millisecond that it was Carrie Coon, and I was like, did we just? But no, Tilda Swinton. Oh, what did someone else say? Not Tilda Swinton. Carrie Coon looks like a young version of Vera Farmiga. That's what it was. They look like they could be
I don't,
sisters.
I don't know who either of those people are.
You don't? No, Carrie Coon is Nora.
Oh, okay.
Vera Farmiga you've seen in movies and shows before. If you Google her, you'll be like, "Yep, that's Nora."
Let me just see if her Wikipedia page is sponsored by anybody.
Yeah, it's sponsored by the CIA. Actually, it's pretty wacko.
Okay, sure, I could see it.
Yeah, that's the. Like,
I don't recognize her from anything, but I could see the
gotcha
resemblance.
So Kevin, what I like about his plot is that he is eyes closed, looking straight towards, I need to get my dad back home. I don't care about everything else that's going on. And like other plots are happening everywhere he goes that he's not acknowledging. And I found that really fascinating. Like specifically the moment where he goes to, is it Matt Jameson's house? And he sees Mary. And you're like, do you know like what's going on with Mary? Have you like spoken to Matt about his wife for a while? And also the like casual silent reveal that they are printing those posters from the beginning of the episode, the Gladys posters that say save them on them. They're just printing those in Matt's house. And so like in the background of this episode, while Kevin is like, I gotta find my damn dad, we're like learning that Matt is escalating his goals to like push back against the Guilty Remnant.
Yeah.
I found that stuff so interesting because like you didn't have to give him a plot line, but you managed to tell a story about like Matt and also a little bit about Mary. That like she's still around and she's still a little bit cogent. Also, she looks at Kevin.
Yeah. It's a very elegant way to like keep those balls in the air without really needing to invest a lot of time in like telling stories about them. They can just say like, hey, this is still happening. So just remember that because in a couple episodes we're going to return to it and do something with it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, speaking to Kevin, just like going through things, we also pushed forward him and Nora's relationship after last week where they had a meet cute. Now they're just like fully dating, I guess. They're on like date number 5.
We skipped the first 4 dates. Yeah. Which
means they're now in the like, do we have sex time? And they're not sure. And a lot of this episode is Kevin being like, I don't know if we're there yet. And then finally when it happens, it's this moment of like, I choose to do this and we're going to do this. Oh, it's so sad. Oh no. So I liked that aspect. And then like that intersects too with the kind of empowering moment where Meg and the Guilty Remnant stop by Nora's house and she just blasts them with the hose sight unseen, which I thought was really fun. Because Nora is just like I think you had mentioned somewhere in your notes, like Nora post Wayne's hug is a changed woman. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
I mean, I think that's something Nora would have done pre-hug. Yeah, probably. I think that stuff really comes up more in the second episode, honestly. Yeah. But in this one, I raised a lot of concerns last discussion about maybe Nora's changed too much, or what do we do with that? And in this episode, it felt like she was characterized roughly similarly to how we've seen her before. But just like she's not sad anymore, ever.
Right.
But that feels less relevant to this episode and more of a wedge between the two of them in the next episode, I think.
I think I agree. Yeah. It's a lot of like table setting is done with it this episode. That is paid off later. Like Kevin bringing home a dog, for example. Tries to establish the family unit in his sleep. He's like, we need to have a dog. If we don't have like a wife right now and our son is gone, maybe if we have a dog, it'll make things feel a little bit more normal. But again, it becomes this memento thing where he's like, when did I bring home a dog? Why did I want to rehabilitate a rabid dog? Like, what did I do?
Yeah, we learned in the next episode that he had like made a bet with tobacco mouth bald Dean. Guy. What's his name? What? Dean?
Dean.
Yeah. He made a bet with Dean that he could, like you said, rehabilitate a dog. And it's sort of, you can think about like, well, what does that mean? What do the dogs represent? And it feels like across the 2 episodes, it's representative of like the members of the Garvey family or people who are like dealing with stuff from the aftermath of the sudden departure. And there's this sort of question of like, can we return to normalcy through like kind of patient effort. And the second episode, characters come to a conclusion about that we'll talk about. But at least in this one, yeah, it's set up and it's a mystery, and it's kind of just a weird, shocking thing that's going on, because we see he's like dreaming about there's a dog in the mailbox.
Yep.
Dean's there, Tom's there, everybody's there, and then he wakes up and he's got like a dog bite on his hand and some bandages, and the dog's in the backyard for real. I think the show does a good job at like using its symbols and like repurposing them or getting us to think about them in a new context, because I think other shows sometimes might do like the first episode dog thing and then not do dog stuff anymore. But this show's kind of like, every time we bring back a dog, we can make you think about like not just the continuity of the plot, but the continuity of that symbol. And it does a good job at like scaring us with the sort of dissociative, was it a dream or was it reality thing? But also it would have been cool to just see Kevin make that choice consciously. It's like there's this weird thing with his character where he's making choices that we don't see, and then he's like, oh God, what was my choice? And it's like, just show us him making conscious choices. That'd be cool.
It detaches Kevin from his ability, his agency, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think intentional, but yeah, it's also like, I think that there is real tangible value to the actual Kevin Garvey saying, yeah, maybe I want a dog. Like, there's nothing that doesn't need to be a weird mystery. It does lead to the like dog in the mailbox dream sequence that then ties him back to Tom with the mailbox and like, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, they have a dog and it's rabid, and he wants to rehabilitate it. And he hasn't figured out how to do that just yet, but that's, and then towards the end of the episode, he like feeds it a big hunk of meat and is like, I have a dog. So yeah, I think that Kevin's plot just mostly boils down to he chases his dad around, he finds his dad, they go to a diner, and he's like, oh, Dad, what's going on with me? And the dad is like, this is the part, my like least favorite scene in the episode, and it shouldn't be, because it bums me out that like I like Scott Glenn and I like Justin Theroux, but hearing him give Kevin like a mystery and be like, this is the thing you have to solve. Remember this specific issue of National Geographic. It's going to be really important. And like we can talk about that at the end here. I have like some notes about the issue, but
yeah, is there other Kevin's dad stuff that we want to talk about and then talk about that?
Yeah, like when he goes to the library and he speaks, Kevin Jr. speaks like perfect Spanish, not perfect, rough Spanish to one of the security guards.
The guy's like, oh, okay. You speak Spanish. That's cool.
This is great. Thank you. We don't make a big deal out of this, but it's good. The guy's like, yeah, he like took $200 and to give to his son. And he's like, what? And again, Kevin's just like he's like seeing the forest for the trees. He even goes to Lucy's house and it's like, where's my dad? Is he here? Is the first thing he says. And she's like, Kevin, he's not looking for me. Like, he's looking for you, bud. You need to stop chasing him because he's coming to you. And then like tells Jill to order the magazine the magazine on Amazon, like gets into the house. The thing that I don't like, that I also want to talk about with Kevin's plot, is his choice towards the end after, by the way, finding his father in his own house. Like I said, he came to Kevin and then hands his father the handcuffs, like, cuff yourself. Yeah. You're the former police chief. There's a part where Dennis is like, hey, chief, this is the only picture of him I could find. And it's just like his police chief photo. Like, Dennis, you're incredible. Also, Kevin Sr. beat up Dennis, which made me hate Kevin Sr. more than I've ever hated a person.
Yeah, right. How could you do that to our sweet boy?
Our perfect little guy. But after he like arrests his father, Kevin flushes his medication down the toilet, which is supposed to be this moment of like, not triumph, but just like, okay, I'm going to try this now because I don't want to be like my dad. I really don't want to start like hearing these voices. Can I just quote unquote be normal? And I think that there's like just a stigma in general in television with like the idea of flushing your medication, and or not a stigma, but that it's like romanticized kind of. And it's seen as like you are beating your quote unquote your mental illness. And I don't see it that way. I think that Kevin needs to like talk with himself and like not in the weird way, but just like have an honest conversation with himself about like, what am I trying to do? Why? What was the benefit of doing that? And he just acts very impulsively here, to where I'm like, well, now you can't get those back. Like, you just deleted some of your progress, basically.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really tricky for me is it's an ambiguous moment in the episode, and it's something that he does at his father's behest. Like, his dad is like, that stuff messes with your brain, you should get rid of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you, Dad. And then his dad says, you used to listen to my advice, but then he does it anyway. I think the thing that's kind of odd for me to square is clearly his dad's like schizophrenia is being portrayed, at least his dad is speaking about it as some sort of like supernatural ability or like link to a different kind of consciousness or something like that. And it's weird to portray mental illness as like a superpower. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel iffy about it. I think it obviously is meant to be like, this is a very rash decision, because I think we immediately go from there to him going to Nora's house and them like doing the business, which also is portrayed as like, okay, kind of a spur of the moment rash choice. I don't know if that was the time and the place, but you did it. So I don't know. Things that it's going to be hard to analyze until we see the repercussions of them, I think.
Yeah. Like, what does flushing your medication do to Kevin now that he has like lost that sense of control?
Yeah.
And I think that ties a little bit into Jill and like the idea of like magical people and how so she is in the force of the teens, and they like lock her in the fridge. She wants to break a record for staying in this fridge. Super dangerous thing. I'm sure teenagers have done something like this across the world many times. You know, it's not beyond the pale too much, but it's a little bit extreme. And the idea is that like, oh, somebody disappeared in here, so there is like, we talked about totems last week, and this is like a totem of sorts. You know, is like, if we go in this fridge, then it somehow connects us to people. And she almost suffocates because the handle breaks off, and then Kevin Sr. breaks the fridge open and is like clearly portrayed as like a holy light behind him. And it's like, you know, but he also says like, get the fuck out of the way. Like, they just can't, they don't want to make him like a fun, nice grandpa, but they make him like the grandpa you have. And
yeah,
Jill,
don't
like,
tell your dad I was here. Bye.
And then runs into the woods. And like Jill like latches onto him a little bit when he like comes to the house. She's like, I finally have like a person I can talk to. And yeah, it's my grandpa, but like, we take what we can get. And I'm bummed that the situation is the way it is. And she does tell Kevin like he's here before he even comes inside. But like,
yeah,
I felt really
bad. And she's the one who tells Kevin that he is escaped also.
Yeah.
Like, she's making the responsible choices while also wanting that connection.
Exactly. I thought that was really good, like, characterization for Jill, all of that, because it shows that she is mature and is like grounded in the real world, but also like understands the value in having a grandparent that you can talk to besides your dad. And because she does, like, who does she have now, right? She doesn't have her brother. She doesn't have Lori. She, as of next episode, doesn't really have Amy. And she super doesn't have Kevin. So she's like, I need to talk to someone about the feelings in my head and the grief I'm not like having. Which we'll talk about more in the second episode. But that's mostly the Jill stuff. I thought I did get claustrophobic when they like had the camera in the fridge though, and I was like, I want to die. But just
me too.
It's well shot.
It was really scary. The thing that's funny to me about the teens is every time they're partying, they have like a new set of like customs and rules to how they party. Yeah. It's like, these are some really creative teens. I don't know.
They're so bored. Is it like, it's not, I don't know if it's summer break. I'm just like, how you guys have so much time to like set up these little games and rituals?
Right. To have like a whole speech that has to be followed. And all these people have set records on the fridge that are like 30 minutes long or whatever. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they time jump it, but like Jill's in there for a long time. So are they just like bored? Like they just like smoke and hang out outside while she
I think so. I don't remember being this inventive as a teen, you know. It's like, does anybody have some funny videos to watch?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Did you want to briefly talk about the Kevin Nora sex scene thing? How did we feel about them doing it finally?
I think it works for me. I mean, it was very like, hey, it's HBO. We can show you whatever we want. It's like, okay,
Here's a
guys.
boob, and then blessedly, here is Justin Theroux's whole naked ass. Thank God.
We also saw one of the twins' bare asses in the woods. So there's
Did we?
Yeah.
When?
He's like pissing in the bush or something.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Must have been Scott.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think it works for me because you know, they set up that these characters like clearly want to have some intimacy with one another, don't really know how to do it, don't really know like why sort of, or like what they want out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's shot in a way that conveys like this on some level is Kevin kind of like doing this because he, in a selfish way, right? Like, I need to feel good, or I need to feel connected to someone because I'm losing my sense of what's real. But also there's like a nice moment where things slow down and they make this sort of extended eye contact. And it's like, okay, they're seeing each other and like still figuring each other out. So I thought it was good, but it was also like very HBO
We have
in
to
a way
have
that
a
was a
sex
little
scene.
silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it apparently was portrayed a little bit better in the book because their relationship is like takes longer to flourish. And something I like a touch from the book was that it said they were like dating for a while and just going to various places, going to his house sometimes even, and just like watching TV together. Like it says that they watched SpongeBob SquarePants together, and that Nora felt really uncomfortable about like having Kevin to her house for a little while, and then finally was like, this is like her lowering that guard finally. And I just don't think the show gets into any of that. It's just kind of like, yeah, after a certain amount of dating and becoming comfortable with who you are, we can accept that we don't know each other, and that's fine, and we can still do this. But yeah, it's not the sex scene.
I don't know. It's a corner that they cut to say like, and 5 dates later, because it's a TV show that only has 10 episodes and it's not a book, so I get it. But yeah, you definitely lose a little something by not being able to just kind of like have slice of life moments of their relationship or take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
They're kind of just skipping ahead to like the next plot beat.
Let's talk about the Tom stuff last, and then I'll do the Nat Geo thing at the very tail, if that's cool.
Sure. The only other thing about the sex scene is Meg goes back to the Guilty Remnant and writes on a piece of paper like, she's fucking, your ex is fucking her. And Lori's like, so? I don't care.
Don't care anymore. I'm beyond it.
Which was funny. Seeing Lori like take leadership roles in the Guilty Remnant these 2 episodes was cool and a little scary.
Especially when you realize why
I like
also.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, so Tom, right? Tom has I think this looped around to be one of probably my favorite Tom storyline so far, or Tom like plot, because it's so tragic. It's finally tragic in the way that feels really tangible and real, which is to say that first off, early in the episode, Tom is asked by Wayne to like take some money. They have $6,000 remaining, which is impressive. And he says to leave $3,000 under a mailbox. Also, Christine is having like pregnancy pain, so he's like trying to get her cold medicine. And of course, the pharmacist is like, how many months in is she? And he's like, I think 8. And she's like, you can't. You got to call an OB. You can't just get her whatever you think is good on the shelf. And he's like so paranoid about dropping this money off, right? Because he's like, he runs to the mailbox. He parks across the street and runs to the mailbox. And I'm like, bruh, you look way more suspicious by doing that. And like, no one's here. Just walk up to the mailbox.
Tom is so bad at being incognito. He just totally sprints every time he has to do something.
Anyways, yeah. So then Tom is like worried about Christine, and he sees somebody who takes the money, and he tails them, and he finds out, bing bong, that they are not the only young Asian pregnant woman and young white guy who is taking her across the country because she is the, quote, one true mother, which breaks his faith right in half as if it wasn't already shattered. And I love this scene where he's like bonding with the other guy, just like Tom too. And he's like, and then he said this. Oh my God, he said that to me. Oh my God, that's wild. And like, then you went and you like, he told you she was the one, right? And she's like, yeah, yeah. And then of course the other woman, Leanne, is like, this is actually not a good crisis of faith for me because I have a child that I thought was more important. And so she like pulls a gun on Tom, which felt a little extreme, I think, but
yeah.
I understand being like, this has shattered her faith even more so. And so he like leaves and they don't see them again. But I just really love this moment of Tom like slowly realizing like they might as well be like a palette swap, right? Of another Tom and another Christine. And he's like, oh, that sucks. We're not.
And I thought that guy playing Tom did this moment really well where he's like laughing with and at the other guy at the same time.
Yes.
When the guy's talking about like getting one of the Wayne hugs and he's laughing like, you fucking idiot. What are you talking about? There's no like great revolution or whatever. But also just laughing, enjoying that he finally has somebody to talk to. I thought he did a really good job with this scene.
And is this before or after this that Wayne calls him? Or he calls Wayne. No, yeah, Wayne calls him and tells. Oh yeah, it's when he tells him about the money, and he's like, "Who is this?" And it's like, "But Wayne, you called me." And he's like, "Oh, Tom? Yeah, you're Tom." And that's like that should be your first clue that like Wayne doesn't differentiate Tom from Christine, from Leanne, from this other Greg. Like they're all just different people that have his child in them, which is like so gross and so scary. I like that they seeded that early and you don't think it's that weird. Well, you think it's weird. You're like, okay, Wayne is like not an empathetic person. He doesn't care about us. But like, yeah, they were telling us. They were giving us the signal and we missed it.
There a couple things come from that conversation with Wayne. He like very condescendingly says, okay, take half of that money. So that's 3 and put it in an envelope. It's like, okay, thanks, bud, for doing that division for me.
Love the math.
And he's lying on the ground in his underwear, near death, it seems.
Yep.
Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. Okay. And then he asks Tom if Tom has fucked Christine. And at this point, Tom's like, dude, no.
I stopped being attracted to her like a very long time ago.
Yeah, that was like 7 episodes ago, my friend.
What are you doing? Yeah. Yeah, I felt really bad for Tom. Then he actually breaks the phone. He throws the phone against the wall, just like his dad threw Matt Jameson's assistant's phone against the floor. Parallels, baby. I thought that was a funny parallel. Like, why are we throwing phones? So many phones get thrown in this episode.
Yeah.
And then so that's that plot. And then last thing, he goes back to Christine.
Yeah, the last thing is important.
The big thing. He goes back to Christine. There's blood everywhere. He's like, what's going on? He goes into the bathtub, and bing bong. Is Christine dead? Absolutely not. She had the baby. And bum, 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 it's a girl. Which the significance of that doesn't make sense without the context of the book, which is that it's supposed to be like the next Wayne, like it's the son.
That was the sense I got, that it was supposed to be the next Wayne. It was supposed to be a boy.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more subtle in the show, which is why I don't really I don't like want to read the book that badly, because I'm like, if they just take all the subtle things and make them obvious, I don't need that. But you understand that it being a girl is not the ideal scenario.
Yeah, they make that clear to us, that it's like, this is not good, because then the baby, it's like a CG baby, right?
I couldn't tell.
Or something. I couldn't tell, but the baby's crying was very, unsettling.
Yes.
And the whole scene was unsettling. So you get that something is not quite right here.
And this plot's like wildly different from the book, as I understand. Like they remember the cult with the bullseye on their head?
Yeah.
They like hang out with those people for a while, and they like help raise the child at first before they leave that group. That's how the book takes this plot. It's much more bleak in the show. My last big thing was just I wanted to talk about the National Geographic issue, just because like this was clearly a very conscious choice to make it the May 1972 one. So the episode's title comes from a photo caption on page 593 of the magazine, Solace Retired Feet, which is a photo of 2 teenage hikers relaxing on a rock warmed by a thermal pool in Yellowstone. It's a Yellowstone retrospective in honor of the first national park's 100-year anniversary. Christine, this is
interesting.
yes. Christine also mutters a feverish reference early in this episode to spiders being underwater, which is referencing an article from the magazine, "The Spider That Lives Underwater," about the diving pell spider. Another bit of connection. And then last one, in Kevin's dream, his police radio meant, this is the most wild one. When Kevin has his dream sequence, that's because he's sitting down listening to the APB, like his radio's right in front of him. And his police radio mentions the upstate New York town of Cairo, which is what the next episode is about. That National Geographic magazine has an article about Cairo. Which is like, guys, come on. That's a lot. That's a lot of work that you did to tie that together. And none of that's said in the show. You're never going to get that in the show. That's just like extemporaneous media. Like, it's cool. Somebody clearly thought very much about that. But
yeah,
that's basically what I have for the episode. Do you have any story notes?
I really like the little moment at the beginning where Nora asks Kevin to come over the first time, and he's like, okay, let me just let Jill know. And then he pretends to text Jill about how he's going to get laid tonight or whatever.
Sex. I'm really nervous about it.
Wish me luck. And then he like basically does tell her later that he had sex. Like, yeah, I was with a friend. I think you'd really like her.
Weird.
So I thought that was kind of funny. Mm-hmm. The Guilty Remnant seems like they think Nora is poised to become a member. Like they're hanging around her a lot. So that's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I wonder why they think that. We learned that Kevin's dad burned down a library. And that's
wild
why
reveal.
He remanded himself to a psychiatric hospital.
Also connected to the line, not connected. When he says, "You have any tranquilizers?" I really thought he was just gonna like take Jill's tranquilizers or something and like get high or something.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they were for the dog.
Kevin found the peanut butter jar of money from the other episode.
Yes, crucial. Yes,
and like that came back around.
Hasn't been addressed yet, but did get found. Yes.
Amy notices that Kevin doesn't remember anything from the night before, and she tries to help, and he's like, don't ask questions. Which is when it was made clear to me that she's like living with them. I didn't realize that was the deal. I thought she just hung out there all the time.
I think it's a situation, because in the second one, she like quote unquote moves out. I think it's something where she's there for long periods of time. She probably has a home to go to. She has a job, because we also see her in the second episode, like in work clothes when she goes to visit Jill.
Uh-huh.
And so like she has a job and she has a living situation, but she just isn't home very often. So she spends very long periods of time at the Garvey household. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I also like the detail that Kevin, when they're having that conversation you just referenced, Amy's watching Perfect Strangers. It's just like a funny old sitcom. Yeah.
And then I think I don't know if we said this, but the National Geographic issue kind of reappears at the end of the episode. Jill ordered another copy of it, so it's chasing Kevin around, and then he like maybe goes to get it from the trash. Maybe he's considering accepting whatever accepting means. Mm-hmm. But we'll know more about that later.
Yeah, the Amy in her work clothes thing is in this episode because Jill is on her bed using one of the Frost Brothers credit card to order quote unquote something online. Which is a scene you don't even think about because it's like, oh, the Frosts are wrestling next to Jill's bed. That's funny. And you're focusing on that.
And then it turns out it's the magazine.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. Anything else?
Nope.
Delicious. I don't really have much. I think I have this line here. I think I'm going crazy. Well, my friend, I think you found the right place, which I believe is Kevin and Nora?
Yeah, after the morning after they have sex.
Like,
they have that exchange.
Big fan of that. That's all I got, though. So if that's what we have, then we will be right back after this brief musical interlude to discuss Cairo.
Welcome back to the Chatzovers. The second episode we watched this week was The Leftovers Season 1, Episode 8, Cairo, is how people say it. It's also, there's Cairo, but I guess they're different places. Written by Curtis Gwynn and Carlito Rodriguez, directed by Michelle McLaren, it aired on August 17th, 2014. Alan, what happened in Cairo?
Well, Majan, I'm glad you asked, because in this episode, a lot happens. Kevin fears he's losing touch with reality after inexplicably finding himself in a difficult situation involving Patti Levin, the leader of the Guilty Remnant. A leader of the Guilty Remnant, to be clear. He has tied her up overnight with the help of the mysterious Dean, and he's trying to understand his own motivation as well as the Guilty Remnant's. Meanwhile, Meg loses control during another encounter with Matt. Jill confronts Amy about her relationship with Kevin. Nora stands up to Lori and finds her privacy invaded by Jill and the Frost brothers. I really like this episode. Is that controversial?
No, I don't think so.
What did you think about it?
Same, what I said before stands, that it's a well-acted, well-directed, very engaging show that is about different things than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. I think some of the writing in this episode is occasionally like a lot, like really intense, and I'm just so tired of the centering it around this Memento storyline. This Kevin.
Yeah.
Like Kevin's basically solving his own like kidnapping right now, his kidnapping of Patti here in his plot line. And to answer it as like, I don't know, he wanted to hurt her. He probably was thinking about killing her. And like to have it be that simple is like not very dramatically rich. And it brings to mind a thought that I have, which is like, maybe the reason we don't like the Kevin memory stuff is as we said in part 1, like it just doesn't tie into things that we like about the leftovers, grief, the fear of loss, the how people cope with a tragedy. All of those things have very little to do explicitly with Kevin's situation here.
Yeah, I think my question for it, and I have not yet come to an answer because I need to see more and see where it goes, and I'm trying to like give the show that patience, because I do think it's a very well made show, and I trust it to resolve these things and answer them in a way that's like, if nothing else, interesting. I think that the question that I have right now is this sort of Kevin dissociative memory stuff a plot gimmick that is like giving us a way to structure episodes and create suspense, or is it like a meaningful, like thematically appropriate character choice?
Right.
And I feel unresolved about that. Like there are moments in this episode that really hit because you're like, oh my God, what's in the cabin? Oh my God, it's Patti. Holy shit, that's crazy. Or like the part where he goes to the clearing and all of his shirts are there.
The shirts!
And it's like, whoa, the shirts. I didn't expect the shirts to come back and they're all here in like a circle. This is so scary because it means that he goes there like, on a nightly basis or whatever and leaves his shirts there. But then you step back from that and you're like, wait a minute. What does that mean though? I had a reaction. I'm shocked by it, but now what? What are you saying with that? So that's like just a question mark for me right now.
I think this episode bears a lot of plot similarity to the film 13 Going on 30, in that you are discovering that you, the main character...
Go off.
You, the main character, are the perpetrator of a lot of awful things, and you're sort of like coming to terms with that. Yeah. I think it works better in that film because that's a better story overall, just period. But it's there. Like it's people solving their own, like answering who they themselves are. And saying, why would I do this? Why would I call Dean up in the middle? Like, what I like about the Kevin stuff is Dean saying, like, you called me and you said you had, like, a plan and you were going to take her and you were going to do X and Y. And, like, now you're worried about this and you're asking me. And, like, who the fuck am I following? And it turns Dean into a character very briefly, which I like.
Yeah. What is intriguing about it is, so what month? It's June last month. We watched Moon Knight in May.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Last month we did a Should You Watch episode on Moon Knight.
2 months ago.
And in
Halo.
April? Oh, you're right. How could I forget Halo? 2 months ago in April, we did a Should You Watch on Moon Knight. And it's interesting to think about how there are some similar like filmmaking techniques that are used to convey this dissociative state. Like there's this sort of like flashes of violent memory from the moments that like the Kevin we're following perceived as a dream, but now he's remembering like, wait, stuff happened last night when I wasn't like conscious of what was going on, and I'm getting these flashes of it. And like they do the same thing in Moon Knight, but the story is like a different kind of suspense, because in Moon Knight there's somebody else in my body, there's another identity here. And in The Leftovers, it seems like what they're trying to say is like there's stuff that you want to do, Kevin, and you sometimes are in a state of mind or being where you do the things that you want to do that you tell yourself you don't want to do.
Exactly.
Which I think the 13 going on 30 comparison is apt, because the kind of the haunting thing about that movie is like, okay, you want to be like a popular girl? Well, here's what you would become if you make these choices when you're 13. And you slowly unravel like, oh, I don't like this person. And Kevin's having a similar conflict of like, I don't like the guy who acts on his sort of more violent tendencies or tries to take matters into his own hands or whatever.
And it's fascinating because,
I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt. It's like,
it's fine.
This is the same Kevin who, in his conscious waking hours, breaks people's phones, bangs on doors, assaults people, threatens the clothing guy at the laundromat. Like, he is this person in real life. It's just that he can dissociate and say that it's in the for the sake of duty, for the sake of answering things. But in his dream self, he's like, what he's worried about, I think, is, am I doing this out of a sense of like malice and spite? Like, is that why I'm doing it? And that's what scares him.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's what's interesting about seeing that in the moments where he's more conscious of his choices, when he goes and does the thing with the shirts, he's clearly funneling a desire to be violent in a different space into that moment. Like he had just been on the phone with the guy who said, hey, we can kill the Guilty Remnant if you want us to. And he's like feeling rageful and conflicted about that. And so he goes and takes it out on this guy. And we see Kevin like grappling with something and making an active choice. Or I still think one of the most interesting bits of Kevin development happens in the pilot when he makes the choice to shoot the dogs. And so it's kind of weird to me that we're like taking Kevin acting on these things off screen to, I think, ask compelling questions about like, isn't this what you want to do? But then I don't know, with seeing him be like, whoa, what?
Why did
He's
I
like,
do that?
Only so interesting as a viewer, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think talking about it here is like making me appreciate this plot a little bit more. Because this is like who Kevin is he's somebody who cannot like stare this stuff in the face, but he will do it. He will enact his will on people and on things that he just doesn't like to accept that he's the one doing it. And that's what's like scaring him so much. But like let's just zoom in on that a little bit. I mean, as I said earlier, Dean establishes that, hey, you chose to come here, you set it all up. And there is something like on a basic level very scary about someone saying like, you told me to come here, what do you mean, why are we here? Right. That idea that I said this early in the Chatzovers, but like that fear that we are like with the bagel scene is, once again, Kevin's like, it can't just be like this, like I have to have, there has to have been some intentionality behind me doing that. And what he learns is like he was probably very angry and wanted to make something happen finally. He's tired of like watching the Guilty Remnant hurt people and watching Patti laugh at him as she gets arrested and then get out of prison and I'll do all this stuff because like nothing is happening. And he worries like, if I'm not going to call the FBI on the Guilty Remnant, then like maybe I will do something very, again, very scary about that. But he starts answering questions about himself, why he did this, as well as to Patti, which again, Ann Dowd just bringing the heat this week. is kind of espousing the Guilty Remnant's like methodology here.
Yeah, I think just to say one more thing about kind of Kevin's role in this before we talk about Patti, because I want to talk a lot about her and her ultimate fate here. It's really interesting to me the moment where Kevin goes to talk to Patti, and he never really says like, I had a dissociative episode and that wasn't me or something like that. He says to Patti, listen, I made a mistake. When he calls Nora, he's like, I fucked up.
Right.
He's recognizing it as something he did. And he, to Patti, says, but you kept pushing me to like try to incorporate the actions into himself and justify them, which was like a really fascinating character thing to me, because it's like he would rather say, I was in control when those things happened, here's why I did them, than say, I was not in control of those things. And like seeing his like sort of his set of priorities, and the way that he engages in that conversation was really interesting. And the whole time you're like, Kevin, buddy, what are you doing?
And it's what the Leftovers season 1 is about. It's not about why things happened. It's about what do you do after they've happened. So pretty quickly, Kevin's like, okay, I'm not going to keep saying like, I don't know why I did this. I have no idea. It's like at some point he's like, yep, okay, I clearly did this. There's no evidence that anybody else did this. I'm the only one who had the tools to do this. What do I do now that I've done it? Can I free Patti? Should I free Patti? Did I actually want something out of this? Like very similar to The Departure. It's like, okay, it happened. We can't keep questioning why it happened. At some point we have to move forward. And what he ends up doing is like, hey, let's talk through this with Patti, which is where she says a lot of words. A lot of words are on the page here. Saying that the things we already know, the Guilty Remnant are people who can accept that things matter. The difference between you and me is that I accept that it mattered. And also that forgetting things doesn't feel normal to them. So it only makes sense to them that we keep reinforcing and digging our heels into this departure was a significant cultural event. It has to matter. You need to stop trying to cover it up and dissociate from it. But also she starts quoting some poetry, specifically some William Butler Yeats from his poem, He Bids His Beloved Be at Peace. I have the part here. I'll probably drop in the clip in the actual episode.
Oh, vanity of sleep, hope, dream, endless desire. The horses of disaster plunge through the heavy clay. Beloved, let your eyes half close and your heart beat over my heart, and your hair fall over my breast, drowning love's lonely hour in deep twilight of rest, and hiding their tossing manes and tumultuous feet. Kevin. Kevin Garvey. You don't have to hide from me.
Which feels like Lindelof and company saying like, I don't know, you figure it out.
Right.
And like, this is a really beautiful poem, but I cannot, and I want to do this, right? Let's like try to English class this a little bit. Yeah. She reads the second half of this poem, and he bids his beloved be at peace. Is there something mournful about this? Is there something that she is saying goodbye to? How did you read any of this, or was it all just kind of like, she's saying philosophical things?
So I think it's important to contextualize this. I also searched "he bids his beloved be at peace" meaning, And one of the results on the first page is a Reddit post from the Leftovers subreddit that says, "Can we discuss the poem at the end of Cairo?"
Yeah.
So let me just link this to you.
Oh, perfect. Just other
so
people
that
did the work for us.
You can open this and see if it spoils later things.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to spoil anything for myself here.
Okay.
But yeah, I at this point was like a little annoyed, because, like you said, it does seem like this sort of thing of, hey, I don't know, what do you think? But not in a way that I found that interesting, because all it's really saying is, or all Patti's really saying is like, Kevin, don't you understand? I want you to tell me that you understand. It feels like a repeat of the beat with his dad.
Yeah.
What it's saying to us, I guess, is like two things. One, Kevin has some kind of role in whatever's happening next, and it feels like there's a kind of fated quality to it. There's a set of things that need to happen, but we don't get a sense of like who wants those things to happen. The Guilty Remnant seems like a part of it. Is his dad part of the same thing? Matt Jameson seems to be bought into it, but he isn't with the Guilty Remnant. Like, some sort of like rapturous thing is forthcoming, and Kevin has a role to play in it. It feels like is sort of what's being communicated here in a supernatural sense. And then what Patti says after this is, you don't have to hide from me. Like, it's this almost like kind of loving thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to make of that. This poem to me reads like, I mean, he bids his beloved be at peace. Like, someone's dying, and there are these sort of like
Ominous omens
of the end of life.
Sorry, ominous omens makes no sense.
Omens, we can just say omens.
Yep.
There are these omens of death that are scary and also beautiful, and it's about comforting someone in the midst of those things, which is what this moment is for Patti. And she's bidding him be at peace, but she's the one who's about to die, which is kind of an interesting reversal of what is being said in the poem. But like, give me some more. I don't know. It just feels like this is like not as deep as it wants you to think it is, you know?
Yeah. So, and also the Reddit post validates what you're saying. It's a poem about the apocalypse. They're literally talking about the four horsemen of the four horses of the apocalypse. And Patti is in a way saying it's the back end of the season. She's saying something big is coming, something apocalyptic, and to the point of like, what does the Guilty Remnant want? They want people to understand, hey, a disappearance like that precedes something bigger. It's not the end of weird things happening to Earth. Why do you guys not get that? Something big, like in the Bible, the rapture happens and then the apocalypse happens. So there's a a yin and a yang to this cultural event, and people are not getting it. And to what she's telling Kevin about this, I think it's more like, you need to stop trying to pretend it's not a big deal and let your feelings happen. Let your paranoia and stuff take you over, because like, you should be paranoid. You should be worried right now. Which I think is potent, but also like, it's prophetic in a way that like prophecies don't always feel very human. We don't speak in prophecies generally. And so I think it kind of distanced me from Patti by the end of this, where I'm like, I don't know, dude, what do you think? We're all going to die? Are you like a magician here? Are you a wizard telling me not to like go to the evil well or something? But she also speaks about how one of the other things the Guilty Remnant does, which is, I felt really weird about this, potentially Gladys's death was definitely foreseen by them, if not literally orchestrated
by them.
Yeah, and she's a little bit ambiguous there, but she basically says, when he says like, did you guys kill Gladys, she's like, it was going to happen. We just like, helped it happen. And when it happens to Lori, she'll be ready for it. And when it happens to you, you'll be ready for it. Like, that's what we do. Is Gladys's death matters. They're plastering her face all over the town because she died. And like, letting people die and being like, and not just worrying about surviving, but letting people die matters. So that being said, she's like, maybe part of the reason that you kidnapped me was so that you could like orchestrate me dying. Like you'll instigate the conflict between the police and the Guilty Remnant to a fever point by killing me, and let's let that happen.
Right.
And at this point, Dean leaves. He's like, this is weird, guys. Kevin doesn't want to do this. He tries to put a bag over Patty's head and like suffocate her, but Kevin rips it open because Kevin's like, I could never kill her. And finally is like, I'm taking you home. And I'm not going to tell anyone. She kind of says like her bargaining chip, though, is I'm going to tell everyone I'm going to ruin your career if you don't kill me. So do it. And he's like, I'll ruin my own career. And then she stabs herself in the neck with a piece of glass and dies and says, you're ready, Kevin. Oops. Rest in peace, Patti.
Yeah, because for her agenda, she needs for herself to die at this moment. We come to realize that like her threatening Kevin isn't just like her being mad or something. It's her trying to goad him into killing her.
Yes.
Because it's like the next thing that she needs to make things move forward, which is kind of a scary thing to acknowledge.
And that ties back into what the Guilty Remnant is planning on a bigger scale, because like you said last time, Lori is like taking on this leadership role and worried about Patti, and is like, well, the plan still has to go forward. So tomorrow, I guess they say, we're going to initiate the plan. I don't know what the plan is, but I'm scared because it involves bags of something.
Bags of something. Meg says, I can't wait to see her face on Memorial Day.
MD.
So
yeah, the file says MD, so Memorial Day. Though we don't even think those are bodies. They're like too loose to be, and they're different sizes. I don't think they're human bodies.
No, because the delivery guys are like skeeved out by it, but they're not like to the level of we're giving you corpses. Yeah, they're just like, you guys are weird. Anyway, here you go. Also, the thing we haven't said about Patti is that she starts the episode laying out a bunch of outfits. So maybe they ordered a bunch of bodies from that body replica company that we keep seeing. Yeah. And they're going to like have all the people or something. Who died.
Yeah, we're building to a fever pitch. It's an end of season fever pitch of some sort. Yeah. And it's scary, and the Guilty Remnant's going to do something, and the apocalypse is coming, etc., etc. I'm curious to see how they handle that. From my memory, it's interesting. ... Okay. Yeah, we have some Jill stuff we can talk about briefly. The episode opens with Jill and Nora and Kevin all at dinner, and Jill asks about the gun, and she's like, "Oh, I don't have it here. I don't have a gun." Jill doesn't believe her. She digs through her purse. Everyone freaks out. This actually leads to a conflict later between Amy and Jill, which I think finally gives us the Amy development that she desperately needed, in a way, because she says, first of all, they talk about like committing to things and being okay with things. And Amy says to Jill when they're sitting outside, like, it's okay. Some people are okay. Like it doesn't, Jill has to believe that Nora has this gun because she's not okay. And she's either suicidal or depressed for another reason. So she keeps the gun for that. But Amy's like, why can't you accept that people might be fine? And this allows Jill to flip around and ask Amy the question we've all been thinking about, which is like, did you have sex with my dad? And Amy, knowing Jill very well, is like, yeah, I did, and here's what happened. And like, kind of, it clearly reveals to be
she's
quoting,
fucking with her.
She's
and,
messing
like,
with
mad
her.
At her. Yeah.
Which leads to a falling out, which leads to Amy moving out, moving out of her friend's house. Yeah. I think what's happening here is that the rift is between Amy and Jill, because Amy is like, again, she's like, things can just be normal. It doesn't have to be that weird that she has a gun. Maybe she's depressed. That's I get it. I would be sad too, but whatever. The real world people are normal. We're characters sometimes. We play characters. I pretend to have sex with your dad, and that was the whole Amy thing all along. Was just like, yeah, I was never doing anything. I'm just a teenage. I'm a 16-year-old or whatever. Like you made up this version of me, and you're making up this version of Nora that's like so worried about things, and this then prompts Jill and the Frost brothers to go break into Nora's house through the dog door, which is like, I think there's a reason not a lot of people have dog doors anymore. It seems like a surprisingly, or they lock from the outside also.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But she breaks into the dog door and they go around. I do like the comedy of the Frost brothers stealing the vest
Playing with the vest, yeah.
and being like, "Punch me, bro." But she finds the gun in the children's room in the copy of Trouble.
In the trouble box, yeah.
I rolled my eyes. It's a little too cute, guys, but it's fun. I think Nora is that kind of person that would do that.
Yeah.
And she starts crying because it's like, oh, she is that sad. You know, Nora isn't okay.
Yeah, I found it more ambiguous than that. Like, you could interpret it that way. I don't know. Like, the sort of question of that moment, and we have to figure out how we're interpreting Jill here, is she's determined in her belief that, like, you cannot be someone who's gone through something like Nora has and be fine, which is what Nora felt about the author of the book in her episode. And then she gets a Wayne hug, which removes that pain in this sort of supernatural way that kind of defies logic. And so I think the gun moment, when Jill finds it, it's either what you're saying of like, she's crying because, yeah, it turns out that nobody can be okay. Nora still has this gun, even though she doesn't carry it with her on her person. She still carries it in the trouble box in case there's trouble. Or Jill's crying because, like, yeah, she put this gun away and doesn't need it anymore. And why can't I do that? Why can't I choose to be okay?
I can't put my gun away.
Yeah.
This also then prompts her to free their dog. She cuts the dog out, which it really scared me for a sec. She pulls out a kitchen knife, and you're like, Jill, don't kill the dog, please. And she doesn't. She frees their dog.
Yeah.
Which I think is also her, like, letting go of the gun in a way.
I think it's her letting go of, like, the dog is about, we can make things normal again. And it's Jill saying, like, no, we can't. Which she then goes to the Guilty Remnant. And so that's a whole thing. And Laurie's expression is also very ambiguous there. But Jill seems to have gone through an arc of, like, some people are saying that they can be normal. I can't make that choice. I'm realizing, like, you know, there's some choice making to be had. I'm not just gonna, like, pretend like things are fine. I'm not gonna try to return to life as it was. I'm gonna go do this Guilty Remnant thing, which we could read as, like, that's a bad choice, Jill, but we could also read it as her, like, acknowledging reality and choosing to, like, face it instead of hide from it. I don't know. It comes down to what you would think is the right choice, or what you feel about the Guilty Remnant's philosophy here.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like is the Guilty Remnant's philosophy?
Well, I think their philosophy makes sense to me, of, like, why are you trying to, like, distract yourself from this or move forward as if nothing happened? I think I don't know how I would feel about it or what I would do in these characters' shoes. I don't know, but that's the choice. It's either, like, confront this thing or deny it and go get a Wayne hug and not feel the pain anymore, which seems unnatural or impossible.
We got I got some feedback from a friend recently who was like, oh, like, part of my problem with The Leftovers is that the Guilty Remnant is not a accurate portrayal of how cults form at all. Which I think is, like, an interesting critique, because this person was also saying, like, I don't want to watch The Leftovers now because I don't think that the Guilty Remnant's realistic. And I pushed really hard back against that because, like, I don't think it needs to be realistic to understand how it comes about. I think in the context of this show, in the real world, the Guilty Remnant wouldn't happen the way it does. There would be some sort of leadership. There might be some sort of, like, connection between the different groups of it. But I do think that people there will be an obsession with like a specific interpretation of the departure, which in their case is let's not forget it, let's think about it and worry about what's going to come next.
Yeah.
Which is why Jill at the end makes sense to me, because like when I'm alone, literally nobody else is in her house, and I'm looking for answers. These are the people who are thinking about these things. Everyone else is trying to forget it and say like, why can't you accept that things are normal, like Amy? But the Guilty Remnant, at the very least, is like, yeah, Jill, like, come on in. We'll talk about. We'll not talk about it, but we'll meditate on it, and like that's very validating for her. You know, it's people coming to their spirituality finally, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Guilty Remnant as an organization to think that they have like chapters all over the country or something, which we have confirmed. In this episode, Kevin's trying to ask Patti, you know, how does your organization work? Who do you take orders from and stuff? That feels a little hard to believe. But I think the thing that makes it work is we see what happens when Patti isn't there, when the like so-called leader isn't there. Somebody else just steps up and does it, because the mission is so clear that as long as you have someone who is like fully bought in, they can drive the thing forward. You don't actually need any one particular person or like leadership structure to make the Guilty Remnant operate. So I don't know. It's like the thing that kind of I have mixed feelings about is the Guilty Remnant is this like narrative invention to ask questions when like you could also just explore these same questions through like real people having real times. But like that's not really what the Leftovers is. It's this sort of like maximalist operatic thing that's gonna like invent stuff and contrive things in order to have more kind of mysterious or otherworldly or heightened reality moments.
Exactly. And I'm really curious to see like what is this ultimate game plan by the end of season 1, because like I truly think that I would also think about it every moment of every day about the departure. I would never stop thinking about it because it refuses to be answered. It refuses to be compartmentalized the way that people are trying to do. And that's something that's just so inherently fascinating about the Leftovers, is it's centered on this event that you cannot just go like, well, that was weird, let's move on with our lives. Like, no, nobody wants to do that. Nobody can do that. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say about that is just like the Nora of it all. Like the moment where Nora is talking to Kevin and she says like, maybe is this in this episode or the last one? She says everything will be okay. And he's like, how? And she says, I don't know. Because it's this moment where it really makes clear the ways in which like that sort of suffering that people are feeling is in some ways like a kind of uniting thing. Like people being able to lean on each other and work through it together is like a really important thing for people to be able to do. And Nora having gotten the Wayne hug and kind of removed that part of herself makes it so that there's this rift between her and Kevin, and also makes clear that like, you know, how could you possibly not be thinking about this thing all the time? Well, it's this kind of unanswerable thing of things will be fine. How? No clue.
Don't know. No idea.
No idea. And I just thought that was like a really telling interaction between the two of them.
Definitely. I liked a lot of the Meg stuff, which is why I want to pivot to that too. She opens her section of the episode by beating the absolute crap out of Matt Jameson, who wants to quote unquote bring her back because he's posting stuff with his group about her mom, which we learn briefly that her mom died literally like a day before the departure, and quote, her grief was taken away from her, she was not able to grieve because who's going to let you grieve your mother when 2% of the population disappeared? And those things happen so close to each other that she's like, well, that sucks. What? I didn't get to have that. But what's really great about this is just the interactions between Meg and Laurie, because Laurie is like, you need to stick to the plan. She like tells Meg to sit down by snapping at a chair, which I love. Again, we keep talking about this, but the way that the Guilty Remnant can like quote unquote yell at each other by just their actions is very nice to me. It's very funny. And she's like, yeah, you can't be beating people up. You can't be assaulting people. But like, I know we hate Matt Jameson for this and this reason. And they do eventually visit Matt, and the weird like moment of like, oh, people are just here. Like Nora is like clipping Mary's toenails, I guess. And they talk to Matt, and he's very quick to be like, he says, yeah, her grief was hijacked. And Nora and Meg and them all kind of like talk to each other. I like that Nora is like, hey, Laurie, have you talked to your daughter? Did you remember you have a daughter that you need to like be a mom for sometimes? That's important for you.
That moment was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought that stuff was all pretty good. But it doesn't particularly go anywhere. One thing I did notice though is that there is in the Guilty Remnant, this is just a really subtle background detail I found that I think is worth underlining. Meg is watching a TV report about Dafid, which is a city or town in Somalia. And if you listen, they're talking about a mass grave where all of the bodies disappeared. And it's like,
what?
Wait, did like bodies disappear? Or are people coming
Dead
back to life?
Dead bodies disappeared too?
Yeah.
In the thing?
Well, no, we don't know about we don't know about that about in the departure. We don't know if dead bodies disappeared, but we know that millions of bodies disappeared from Somalia. And that's weird. Let's just leave that on a news report in the background of this freaking episode. Pretty weird.
Maybe that's what they were getting shipped to them after all.
Possibly. Oh God, that would be really effed up, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, Meg like refuses to commit to not speaking or whatever. Laurie is like they have their back and forth. They have this beautiful like church set. I think this is Matt's church that they're at, actually. In all of these scenes. But this is when like, yeah, the guys come up with the trucks and they're like, hey, we got bags. You people are some sick fucks. And it seems like they're laying out whatever's in these bags next to the old children's clothes that Patti laid out at the top of the episode. So this is all part of something.
Something's happening.
Mm-hmm. But that's pretty much all I have. Wow. Huh.
I liked the kind of the contrast in just that opening sequence between Patti putting out all the clothes and Kevin setting a very nice little dinner table and being so proud of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that being kind of also the thematic, core philosophical debate of the episode, which is like, can you act like things are normal or not?
Yeah.
That's like is a pretty well shot, elegant sequence that also, I think, through the light, the way the Kevin part was lit, communicated that this is a kind of idyllic, like reconstruction of the 2.5 kids, white picket fence, American dream family unit that just like isn't real or can't happen in the way that Kevin wants it to. So The Leftovers is really good at having these kind of like visual thesis statements that they then explore over the course of the episode.
It's just one of my favorite
really
things
like
about the show is that they don't feel the need to tell you those things with people like with dialogue all the time. They just let you play around with the space. It's such a good show to podcast about for that reason also.
Yeah. I love Dean's like just kind of good-natured Kevin being like, why would you do this with me? And Dean being like, because we're friends.
We're friends. What do you mean why?
Yeah. We learned that Dean like doesn't have a birth certificate or a driver's license, or
he's a quote an angel, and then she does the "It's a Wonderful Life" reference at him, like I'll ring the bells or whatever.
Yeah, I just heard a bell ring.
Cute.
Laurie insists to Meg that violence is not the Guilty Remnant way because it's weak. Meg writes, "I'm not weak." Laurie writes, "Prove it."
Prove it.
So there's a philosophical difference emerging between them that we can clock and see. Does Meg toe the line, or does she do further kind of like erratic or violent with, cause sorts of things?
Right.
Kevin saying, I need you to Nora on the phone. It's a touching moment of vulnerability from Kevin that he hasn't been able to get to with anybody else, except his dad, maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely.
I think it also matters that Jill left the gun out for Nora to see it, to be like, hey.
Yeah, I did this.
Yeah. Like, I did this. I found your gun. You can pretend like you don't have it, but I found it. And
I love that too.
Own up to it.
I think the first time I watched this, I was like, why is Jill dumb? Like, why did she leave it out? But it's like, no, you don't leave that out, because leaving it out specifically implicates Jill. Like, nobody else would have taken it. We just talked about where's your gun at dinner.
Yeah.
And we know that, like, Jill does stuff like this. So she's basically saying, I know you did it, or I know it's here. I found it. Let's just put that on the table. I loved that.
Yeah. I really like the cut from the swelling music as Jill is at the Guilty Remnant place, and Laurie's like, whoa, what the heck? And the music's like, shoo, and then it's like, shoo, it cuts really sharply to Kevin's face, and Patti saying, boy, are you fucked. What a good cut that was.
It really was. I love the editing.
Yeah.
And Kevin's still refusing the Guilty Remnant at the end of the episode, and like,
him
freeing Patti is basically saying, like, no, for the last time, I need normalcy and complacency. I can't buy into what you guys are saying. I'm not going to kill you. And Patty's like, you don't get to make that decision. I loved that.
Yeah, like, you're a part of this, whether you want to be or not. Yeah.
And Kevin Garvey, part of it. Exactly.
And you are Kevin
Garvey. And we are here in Mapleton, New York.
British Columbia, Canada.
Exactly.
That's what I got, though.
Fab, dude. That's really fab of you.
Thank you.
Let me just look here. Oh, I loved the song at the top of the episode. I've Been Buked by Alvin Ailey. I looked it up. That's
Great
Alvin Ailey's a dancer or was a dancer, and like choreographed a lot of beautiful performances. And so in the original performance of that, it's like people looking up to the heavens. Like, why have I been rebuked? And I looked up a performance of it. It's really great. I also wrote something about, like, she lays out baby shoes never worn. when Patty's laying out all the stuff, one of the things is baby shoes, and I was like, were those worn? Probably not. I can't be trusted with a note-taking document, honestly. Yeah, that's the stuff.
I just pictured that meme with the guy with the butterfly, and the butterfly says someone with baby shoes, and the guy's like, is this a Hemingway reference?
Good. I might make that. Oh, that's what we have, my friend. That's what we have. Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Love the episodes. Excited where we're going. It's time for the end game. Next week on the Chatzovers, we are watching Season 1, Episode 9, The Garveys at Their Best.
Oh, God.
Kevin tries to suppress his bad habits while tracking down a marauding deer in Mapleton.
His bad habits.
Yeah, his bad habits.
Okay.
And Laurie receives not unexpected news amidst a rising sense of foreboding.
Okay. Yep.
Can I just say two small things? I promise not to.
Yeah.
That summary is completely burying the lead. Deep.
Of course.
50 feet deep, it's burying the lead of what this episode is. And second of all, it's episode 9 of an HBO show. Of a 10-episode season.
Right. So
think
some wild stuff is going to happen. You're saying.
Correct. Sure. Yes, I am saying that. We're also watching the season finale, season 1 of The Leftovers, episode 10, The Prodigal Son Returns. Matt helps Kevin through his crisis, and Patti continues to haunt Kevin. The Guilty Remnant executes their plan, causing chaos and grief throughout the city, and Tom is left in a difficult situation with Wayne's baby. These are the best summaries. These are really fucking good. No spoilers whatsoever. Just like stuff happens and it sucks, basically.
Yeah. That's going to be great.
I adore it. But yeah, that's the Chatzovers. Magellan, where can people find you on the podcast sphere?
If you want to hear me talking about video games, well, you're in luck. I co-host a monthly video game podcast with my friend Justin called Super Smash Echoes, where we talk about games that are related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise. Maybe it's where the characters are from, or it's games that kind of are inspired by those games. It's a monthly video game book club podcast that uses Super Smash Brothers as kind of like a nexus point, a prompt, and then we take it in different directions. We're going to be finishing up Earthbound. Whether we finish the game or not, we're going to stop talking about it after our next episode. So keep your eyes on the feed for that. Alan, what about you?
I'm on another podcast called The Huntress Quorum. That's a show where my friend Six and I, and lately, and probably for the rest of that series, read the podcast Minovsky article from Twitter. We're talking about the monsters from the Monster Hunter video game franchise. So we both do gaming podcasts in our spare time. It's fun.
Nice.
And we're gearing up for the release of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, so we've been playing a lot and talking a lot about that. We just got to the monsters in World, so we'll be talking about Rise probably in the next episode or two.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you want to take the plugs on this week, my friend?
Surely I do. If you would like to get in touch with the show, you have a few options. If you want to use your email, well, we have one. It's chatspod@gmail.com. You can send us questions, comments, suggestions, or, if you have some concerns as well are welcome. Anything that you want us to read on the show, just let us know if that's the intent behind your message, and we will read it on the podcast. We love doing stuff like that. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter. We're at ChatsPod, so you can follow us there. You can reply to our posts. You could DM us on Twitter if you would like. We are on Reddit, reddit.com/r/chatspod. That's a fan-made subreddit. Shout out to the brothers in Infinite War, Nick and Pat. And that's where folks talk about current and past seasons of chats and get some discussion going. And we also have discussion going on our Discord, which you can join if you are a patron, or if you ask, we can send you an invite to it. It's a fun little space where people talk about shows that have been covered on chats, as well as some shows that haven't been or have been covered tangentially, or that we piloted, or really anything kind of TV, movie, pop culture that you want to talk about. We've got spaces for it. And it's a fun little squad over there. Speaking of the Patreon, you can support us on Patreon at $1, $3, or $5 a month. $1 a month gets you on the Discord, gets you access to some past bonus episodes. $3 a month gets you access to our regular monthly bonus content, which could be commentary chats episodes, could be pilot chats episodes, could be chats nights. Those are our 3 bonus shows. Commentary chats is like movie commentaries. We did the reason we mentioned 13 going on 30 is because we did an episode on it last month that you can find on the Patreon. Pilot chats, we watch the first episodes of shows that we might cover for this main feed. We're going to have to figure out season 15 sooner than we think by the end of the year. So you might see us tooling around with that before then. And then chats nights, we talk about whatever. We did a couple fun nights in June. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Any ratings would be helpful. You can check out our website at chatspod.com. You can support at Camillustrator, who created our podcast art, on her socials. And that's the plug stuff. $5 a month, by the way, if you're a patron, gets you thanked at the end of the episode. So I have a few people to thank right now. Arthur, Chloe, Jen, Kat, Lee, my mom, Marcus, Marin, Michael, Nick and Pat of the Brothers in Infinite War, Fendon, Six, and Stefan. The nice thing is that Nick and Pat are right next to each other in alphabetical order, so It makes sense to read them next to each other. So if you are someone whose name falls alphabetically between Nick and Pat, change your name so that we don't have to break them up. Thanks.
Please, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's directed at all you Nileses out there.
Niles and Frazier's going to finally support us on Patreon. I can feel it.
Yeah. We also end our episodes with Chatsums, little pop culture recommendations to snack on between now and next time. Alan, do you have a Chatsum for the folks?
No, God, no.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I do. I lied to you there. I'm watching a new show. I'd like to talk about it. Have you heard of Star Trek, Magellan?
Yeah, I have.
Any good? Do you like it? Are you a fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like I deflated you by saying I don't have a chat sum. I'm so sorry. I was just doing a fun gag.
No, I got a text from my mom that I got to tell you about. It's not a bad thing, but
Okay.
I'll tell you about it after.
Okay, good. Yes, Star Trek is good. Star Trek Strange New Worlds on Paramount Plus is shockingly good. It is a prequel to the original series. If you haven't been keeping up with modern Trek, Star Trek Discovery has done some timey-wimey nonsense with the timeline of Star Trek and started out as a prequel to TOS and then has gone so far into the future that it's also created alternate universes. Strange New Worlds takes place in the alternate pre-TOS world that exists now, and it's a different interpretation of Captain Pike's crew. Captain Pike, if you don't know, was the captain of the Enterprise right before Kirk, and he also features prominently in Discovery. And so Strange New Worlds is despite all of that build-up, it's a pretty good jumping on point for Star Trek right now. If you want to watch modern Trek and you don't want to watch Discovery because it's kind of a mediocre show, but you want to watch something new that's like easy to get into, Strange New Worlds, I watched the pilot after finishing Foundation with a friend recently, and we were both like, this is a Star Trek show. This is not like a weird narrative mystery drama like Discovery is. This is we go to meet some aliens who have a conflict, and we enact the power of the Federation, and we fix things. And it's optimistic the way that Star Trek is, and it's science fiction-y, and the performances are good, and it's like, I can't believe it exists. I don't know how long it stays this good. I've heard it's consistently good, though. And I think it gets the Alan Ibrahim seal of approval so far, based on just the pilot. That's Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Magellan, what about you?
I recently went with roommate of the pod, Charlie, to see a concert in Prospect Park that was headlined by Car Seat Headrest.
Whoa! Did they do
yeah.
Drunk Driving Killer Whales?
They did
Yes!
a kind of like spacey, almost like a performance at the Roadhouse version of it, kind of.
What?
Which is like worse than the normal version, but fun to see live.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were really fun to see live if you somehow have a chance to see them. And it just reminded me how much I specifically love the album Teens of Denial, which came out in 2016. So, our podcast existed sort of at that point. Did it? We were definitely recording episodes.
Yeah, we were releasing in 2016.
Yeah, not on the podcast feed on YouTube, right?
No. The podcast feed starts on December 25th, 2015.
2015. Okay, great. Yeah, great. So it was, if we had been doing Chatsoms at the time, I would have Chatsom Teens of Denial when I first, was made aware of it. But I'm Chatsoming it now. And then the other Chatsom I would say is, I've been exploring some different ways of making playlists lately.
Yes.
And so there are two new ways of making playlists that I would recommend people try out if you're trying to shake up your music listening. One is I've been making some micro playlists, so 3-song playlists with hyper-specific uniting ideas or themes. So give that a shot. And then the other thing I've been doing is I've been making playlists of 4 albums that I think share a vibe. So it's making the kind of streaming music version of like having a CD changer.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of nice to have, like 4 albums that I think have a similar vibe. You can toss it on shuffle or skim through that when you're trying to queue up a couple songs. It fits the way that I interact with streaming music. Maybe it doesn't fit with people out there, but it's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion, and I love that suggestion.
Yeah.
Playlists and music. Tunes, if you will.
Tunes.
Frankly, Magellan, thank you. At the end of the day, thank you for gladly punching me in the stomach while I wear this really cool bulletproof vest. Gleefully doing so. And thank you all very much for listening to the Chatzovers, where we watch so you remember.